Life processes, chapter 6. We are going to discuss about the life processes. Look over here. The first topic is the criteria to decide whether something is alive. Any organism or any substance which is said to be alive. So, what are the characteristic features shown by that organism or that substance to behave or to express that that organism or the substance is live or not? You can see the different pictures over here. They all are showing motion. The first one is the bird, then the fish, and these are the microorganisms. Then again the bird at the bottom, then fish is there, and again these small bacterial microorganisms are there. So these pictures what shows that these organisms they are showing the motion. So now look over here, the criteria to decide whether something is alive or not. So what is the criteria? The most important criteria to decide whether something is alive is the movement. All living things move without the help of any external help. They are not supported externally by anyone, they are moving by themselves. So, some movements are easily visible, like the movements of the body parts. Some movements are not easily visible, like molecular movements. Molecules moves, and these molecules are very tiny. They cannot be seen by our naked eyes, so their movement of these molecules are not visible. The molecular movement in cells and the tissues is necessary for all life processes. All cells in their cytoplasm show the movement, means there is a certain type of movements of the molecules in the cell cytoplasm, and that movement of molecules in the cells as well as in tissues is very essential for the life processes. Now next is, what are life processes? Life processes are the basic processes in living organism which are necessary for maintaining their life. These are very essential, and these are essential because they are meant for maintaining the life, means essential for the organism to live. The basic life processes are nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. Now we'll discuss what are these. The first one is nutrition. It is the process of taking food by an organism and its utilization by the body for life processes. We are taking the food and that food is broken down inside the organism body, and then after broken up the nutrients are utilized by the body for the development, growth and development, so that those nutrients are utilized in the body. That is called as nutrition. Second is respiration. Respiration is a process by which food is burned in the cells of the body with the help of oxygen to release energy. We have taken the nutrition. That nutrition is provided to each and every cell of the organism body, and when it is unicellular then the nutrition is in the cell of that organism body, that cell. But when oxygen is taken up, that oxygen is used to break down the glucose to provide energy to that organism so that organism can work properly. So respiration is what? It is the process by which the food is burned in the cells of the body with the help of oxygen to release energy. And the product of respiration are energy, carbon dioxide and water. Now next, the third one is transportation. Transportation is the process by which food, oxygen, water, waste products, these are carried from one part of the body to the other part. So these transportation is done in the organism body, and these are transported like food, oxygen, water, the waste products, hormones, medicines, many other these substances, they are transported from the body part where they are in excess to the body part where they are required. Next is excretion. Excretion is the process by which the waste products are removed from the body. So removal of the waste product is also required, because if these waste products accumulate in the organism body, they may cause severe injuries or severe damage to the internal cells. Now here is the diagram. You can see over here diagrams. Digestive system for the nutrition, intake of nutrition. Then respiratory system is there. For respiration, exchange of gases occurs, breakdown of the nutrients, and then release of energy is done. Then this is circulation or transportation. For transportation, blood is the major fluid connective tissue and it transports the substances throughout the body. Then comes the kidneys and all. This forms the excretory system. Now here we talk about nutrition. Nutrition is the process of taking food by an organism and its utilization by the body to build the body for growth, to repair the damaged parts of the body, and for energy. Life on earth depends on carbon based molecules, means all the organisms they require carbon based molecules in the form of their nutrients or in the food, and most of the food are also carbon based molecules. The outside raw materials used by living organisms are food, water, and air. Now the modes of nutrition. There are two main modes of nutrition, that is autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. That means how the organism is obtaining its nutrients. So first of all we'll discuss about the autotrophic nutrition. Is the nutrition in which organisms prepare their own food from simple inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. For example, all green plants and some bacteria, they are autotrophic. All green plants, they perform their photosynthesis and synthesize their food. Whereas some bacteria, these bacteria, they are not photosynthetic but they are chemosynthetic, that is they utilize certain chemicals to prepare their own food. That's why they come under the category of autotrophic. Next we talk about is heterotrophic nutrition. Under heterotrophic nutrition, organisms, those who are not able to prepare their own food but they depend on the other organisms to get their food directly or indirectly from plants. For example, all the animals, fungi and some bacteria, they come under heterotrophic nutrition category. Animals cannot prepare their own food. They are dependent on the plants as well as other animals. So they come under the category of heterotrophic nutrition. Second, types of heterotrophic nutrition. Here we'll discuss about the types of heterotrophic nutrition. There are three main types of heterotrophic nutrition. First is saprophytic, then parasitic and holozoic. So first of all, we'll discuss about the saprophytic nutrition. In saprophytic nutrition, organisms get their food from their dead and the decaying organisms. They break down the food material outside their body and then absorb it. Means here the organism is taking the nutrition from the other organism but from the dead and decayed organism body. And they break down the food material outside their body only. That means they secrete certain substances so that the food is broken down into some simpler substances in the outside and then that content is absorbed by the organism. For example, mushroom, bread mold, yeast and some bacteria, they dissolve the food outside their body and then they absorb the digested food. Second is the parasitic nutrition. Parasitic nutrition is a mode of nutrition in which organisms get their food from the living organism, that is the host, without killing the organism. Parasites, they are dependent on the host body for the nutrition. They don't kill their host but they take the digested food from the host body and then they survive. For example, cuscuta. Cuscuta is the plant that is called as, it's a plant parasite called as amarbale. Then orchids are there, ticks, lice, leeches, roundworms, tapeworm, plasmodium, etc. These all are parasites and they are taking their food from the host body. Next, third one is the holozoic nutrition. In holozoic nutrition, organisms take food directly and then digest and absorb it. Means they are taking the food directly, they are engulfing the food, and the digestion of the food process occurs inside the organism body. After digestion, the nutrients or the digestive substance is absorbed by the organism body and then it is utilized for the growth and development of the organism body. For example, amoeba, paramecium, birds, fishes and humans. Now look at the diagram over here. This is the mushroom. It acts on it is showing the saprophytic nutrition. So what is there? It secretes certain substances on the dead and decaying substances and then absorbs the dissolved substance. The next is this yellow color. In the second diagram, see the thin yellow colored structure, stem like structure surrounding the plant, that is the cuscuta, or we call it as the amarbale. It surrounds the plant and it absorbs its nutrients from the other plants. The third diagram is of amoeba. It is taking the food. This is engulfing the food from here, and this is the amoeba and it is taking the food, holozoic. Okay, it is taking the solid food inside, it is engulfing the food, and then internally when the food particle enters the cell, then the food is digested. Now next here is nutrition in plants. In plants, we know that the green plants, they perform photosynthesis. They utilize sunlight to synthesize their food, that is the glucose, in the green leaves. The green color of the plant is due to the presence of chlorophyll. Now here we'll discuss about the photosynthesis process in detail. Photosynthesis is a process by which plants prepare food by using carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. The food prepared is carbohydrate, or we usually say glucose, and when glucose is stored in the body of the plant, it is stored in the form of starch. So glucose and starch, they both are carbohydrate, which is stored in the form of starch. Oxygen is released in this process. So this photosynthesis process is very essential though, because in this plants are utilizing carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is utilized by the plants and oxygen is given out by the plants. So this oxygen is utilized by the other animals. Now here we see the equation of photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide plus water, it reacts in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, gives C6H12O6, 6 molecules of water and 6 molecules of oxygen. Now the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes place in the three main steps. First is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight and this sunlight is used as an energy to split up the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. Means the energy which is absorbed, the sun energy which is absorbed by the chlorophyll is utilized to break down the water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen, and then this hydrogen is utilized in the reduction of carbon dioxide to form carbohydrate, and this oxygen which is split up, it is released in the atmosphere. So the process of photosynthesis, it involves first is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs the sun's energy and that energy is used to break down the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, and then the reduction of carbon dioxide occurs. That means this hydrogen is reacted with carbon dioxide to form or to convert it into carbohydrates, and oxygen is released in the atmosphere. Now here we see the diagram. See, the sun energy is utilized by the plant. Plant contain chlorophyll. Then this plant is absorbing carbon dioxide. Water is absorbed from the roots. Then this carbon dioxide, water is split up into hydrogen and oxygen. Then hydrogen reacts with carbon dioxide and it forms glucose. Then this oxygen is released in the atmosphere. See, glucose is formed and oxygen is released. So this is the process of photosynthesis. Now next we'll discuss about the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is what? It is a green color substance present in the leaves. If we observe the cross section of the leaf under a microscope, we can see the cells containing the green dot-like structures called the chloroplast. Now you can see over here, this is the microscopic view of the internal section of the leaf. This is the upper epidermis, which contain a waxy coating which is called as the wax cuticle. This is the upper epidermis and it is having a thin layer of waxy coating called as cuticle. Then comes internally there comes the pillar-like cells, long pillar-like cells. These all pillar-like cells are called as palisade mesophyll. These palisade mesophyll, they are made up of parenchyma cells. These are living cells and these contain these dark green dots seen over here. These green dots in this region are the chloroplast present in the palisade mesophyll and the spongy mesophyll. The spherical structures, these spherical structures, these all are cells and these are called as spongy mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll, they both are made up of parenchyma cells. In between the palisade mesophyll cells and spongy mesophyll cells, large air spaces are present. These are meant for exchange of gases. Then and the lower epidermis is there, which is not continuous. It is interrupted in between due to the presence of stomata. Stomata is there for the release of oxygen, means the byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen and water. So oxygen is released out of the stomata to the external environment. Now next is the diagram of the plant cell. See here in this, the outer cell wall is there. This is the cell wall. It is made up of cellulose. Then inner second membrane is the cell membrane and centrally located vacuole. In plant cell there is a large central vacuole which has a membrane. Then nucleus is there which is shifted towards the one side. Then the cytoplasm, very thin cytoplasm, thin layer of cytoplasm is there which is attached at the periphery. And the chloroplast contains the chlorophyll. Now here is the diagram of the leaf. See again the upper cuticle, then upper epidermis, palisade mesophyll, spongy mesophyll, lower epidermis, and then again the cuticle with the guard cells or the stomata are there. So now what will happen? These palisade and spongy mesophylls, they are green in color because they contain the chlorophyll. And chlorophyll is meant for performing the photosynthesis because it traps the sunlight. Now see, due to the photosynthesis, the concentration of water vapor increases in the inner side of the spongy parenchyma cells and carbon dioxide is utilized, so the concentration of carbon dioxide is low. So what will happen? So when photosynthesis is going on, oxygen concentration increases and carbon dioxide concentration decreases in the leaf cells. So when the concentration of carbon dioxide decreases, then stomata opens, water present inside, or the water vapor present inside, it enters into the guard cells, and from guard cells it comes out in the form of the vapor through the stoma. And the carbon dioxide concentration is more outside, so carbon dioxide enters from higher concentration to the lower concentration. Now this is the diagram of the chloroplast. Chloroplast is a double membrane structure. Chloroplast is a double membrane structure. See, you can see over here, this is the outer membrane, this is the inner membrane, and in between the inner membrane and outer membrane there is a fluid filled cavity. Then comes the innermost region, that is the stroma, and the stroma contains these stack like structures. These are called as grana. Grana constitute about the coin like structures. These are small coin like structures stacked one over the other. These are called as thylakoids. Thylakoids contain chlorophyll. Thylakoids contain chlorophyll in them. So this is the diagram of a chloroplast. Now next is again the diagram of a leaf. Already we have discussed the diagram of the leaf. This is the diagram of a cell, plant cell. And this is the diagram of chloroplast. Outer membrane, inner membrane. In between the two membrane there is the intermembrane space. Then inner to the inner membrane, this is the stroma. Stroma containing the grana. Grana contain thylakoids. Thylakoid contain chlorophyll. And the grana are connected to each other with a lamella. And inside the thylakoid there is lumen. The cavity inside the thylakoid is called as lumen. Here is the stomatal open to allow carbon dioxide to enter the leaf and water vapor to leave. This already we have discussed. Now stomata. Here we see the study about the stomata. Stomata are what? These are the very tiny pores present in the leaves through which exchange of gases takes place. Each stoma has a pair of guard cells. You can see the diagram over here. Each stomata has a pair of guard cells. Guard cells are over here. See, this one is a guard cell and this one is the guard cell. So for in each stomata there are two guard cells surrounded by the epidermal cells, or we call it as subsidiary cells. And in between the two guard cells, this space is there. This is called as stomatal pore. So now this is the diagram which is seen on in the microscope. When we prepare the slide, prepare the slide, this type of structure or the slide is seen. Here we can see the stomata. These are the stomata, bean shaped stomata. So what will happen when photosynthesis occurs? Water is released along with the oxygen. So that water enters into the guard cells. And guard cells are thickened from the inner side. You can see the thickening, inner side thickening is there in the guard cells. So guard cells are thick from inner side and thin from the outer side. Outer side wall are thin. So when water enters, the pressure on the guard cell is more on the outer wall. Pressure on the guard cell is more on the outer wall. So this is a thin wall, this is thick wall. So pressure will be more on the outer wall in comparison to the inner wall. As a result, the movement of the guard cells occurs, means these walls are pushed outward and the stomata pore opens. When stomatal pore opens, oxygen concentration is more inside the leaf. So that oxygen comes out and carbon dioxide from the outside enters inside. So in this way, exchange of gases occurs. Water, the surface area of the guard cells increases. The surface area of guard cells increases. As a result, more area is in exposure to the environment. So water gets evaporated and the guard cells shrink because they come in, water is evaporated and then the stomatal pore is closed. See here in this diagram, due to the evaporation of the water, these guard cells had shrink and the stomatal pore is closed. Now see the activity to show that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. Take a potted plant having variegated leaves, croton plant. Variegated means with different shades, different colors. There are many plants which are having leaves with different colors or different shades. So that is called as variegated leaf. Keep it in a dark room for 3 days so that all the starch is used up. Means the plant used to store the food. So when we keep the plant in the dark, the reserve food is utilized by the plant to make it survive. Then after that, keep it in the sunlight for 6 hours. When we keep the plant in sunlight, then it get the sunlight and it starts performing photosynthesis. So after keeping in the dark, then we put the plant in sunlight for 6 hours. Then take a leaf from the plant and mark the green areas of the leaf on the sheet of paper. Dip the leaf in boiling water to make it soft. Then dip the leaf in alcohol. Here we are boiling the leaf and then we are keeping it in the alcohol because in alcohol the chlorophyll is dissolved. So alcohol dissolves the chlorophyll from the leaf and then we heat it in a water bath to decolorize it and remove the chlorophyll. Then wash the leaf in water and dip it in dilute iodine solution. After taking out from the alcohol, we wash the leaf with water and we put a iodine solution over it, or we either put the leaf in the iodine solution. We see that only the green parts of the leaf turn blue-black because it is a variegated leaf and in having different shades, the part of the leaf which is having only green color, that is chlorophyll. Over there only the reserve food is present, that is the starch is present because the leaf had prepared food. So when we put the leaf in the iodine solution, then the starch color changes or the iodine color changes, detecting that the starch is present, and the color changes from green, chlorophyll is removed, and then the color changes to blue black. So this shows that chlorophyll is necessary for photosynthesis. Now activity to show that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. We take 2 potted plants of the same size and keep them in a dark room for 3 days so that all the starch is used up. Then keep the plants on separate glass plates. Keep a watch glass containing some potassium hydroxide KOH near one plant to absorb carbon dioxide. Why we have kept the potassium hydroxide KOH? Because potassium hydroxide used to absorb the carbon dioxide. After that, we cover both the plants with a bell jar and seal the bottom of the jar so that there is no exchange of gases from the external environment to the inner side of the bell jar. Now keep the plants in sunlight for 3 hours and then take a leaf from each plant and test for starch. The leaf of the plant kept in jar containing potassium hydroxide does not show the presence of starch. Why this is so? Because whatever the carbon dioxide is present over there, that carbon dioxide is absorbed by potassium hydroxide and that carbon dioxide is not utilized by the plant. So plant is not able to perform photosynthesis. So this shows that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. Now this is the nutrition in plants.